Oh, good morning. We are back again with another episode of the Knicks Morning Brew. I am your guy, Hector. And like always, I am chilling with my compadre, Philip Porto. Phil, talk to the people.
What up, what up, what up? I'm looking forward to chilling this morning. Our Knicks are getting some rest right now as we get ready to enter into the playoffs. This is going to be a stellar playoff series, us against the Cavs, the story that most of us have wanted, most of us have been dying to see unfold, and so we are looking forward to it. So watch this intro, grab your coffee if you haven't, and get ready to rock with Hector and I for the probably the next hour or so. So we appreciate you guys. Let's get going.
Good morning, Knicks Universe. Welcome back to another episode of the Knicks Morning Brew. I am your guy, Hector. And like I said before, I am chilling with this handsome, sly devil to the right of me, Mr. Phil Porto. Philip, grab your cup and coffee.
I got it. And you know what? I'm gonna brush off that intro. I felt like freaking Porky Pig trying to get sentences out. I was like, it's morning, bro. But no, now I'm back. I feel better. Brush that off. Looking forward to chilling with you this morning, bro. How was your,
Yes,
weekend? Easter weekend?
Oh,
Chilling?
it was good, bro. It was good. I was hanging out with our guy Dexter Henry on Saturday over on New York Post SNY, feeling type amazing. Shout out to the chat that's in the building. We got a few early birds. My guy TC still what it do, and of course the one and only Jonathan is in the building. But besides that, bro, I had an amazing weekend. Just with the fam, trying to get the voice back because it's still a little hoarse from last weekend over at Yankee Stadium. But I'm here. I'm all good. I'm drinking some tea this morning with a nice little Marvel cup. You feel me?
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Hearing the
Mm.
words tea out of my Marvel cup this morning. I love it. The bouge has finally caught you this season, so
Yes.
I've been effective on the bouginess. But yeah,
Yes.
similar to you after, watching you on Saturday, it was crazy because I was watching you as I was getting a haircut and beard trim so that I could make it to the movies with my little ones and my wife.
Mm.
So we went and saw that new Mario movie, and I know a
Nice.
lot of people on my Facebook and Instagram, they were like, "What do you really think of it?" As a person who grew up, did they ruin it?
Hmm.
Did they
Hmm.
ruin the
Hmm.
nostalgia of it? And no, it was like everything you would want as a Mario fan. I was a straight up 8-bit Mario guy from the get go and
Same.
followed
Same.
the whole Mario thing. So if you're a fan of Mario, you will love that movie. It mixes some of the more modern style of comedy that you love from
Hmm.
movies, but it's got that nostalgic feel that just makes you feel like you're back in a video game. So that was great, chilling with the wifey and the kids all weekend. Had some church events. I love weekends where I could just kind of like focus on the fam and just kind of hang out. And since the Nick game didn't really have much like value to it, whether we won or
Hmm.
lost, it was kind of just like background music for me, as I was building stuff from the kids' Easter baskets and whatnot. So that was a lot of fun. What up, Uncle Foxy in the
Uncle
building?
Foxy in the building. What it do? And of course TC Stills. And I had an amazing conversation with Foxy. First and foremost, outside of this content creating world or just this Nick world, it's good to be able to have conversation with people who you love and respect. Obviously, Philip, you and your brother Jigga, I understand I can call you guys whenever, but having Foxy call me, I truly look at Foxy as an older uncle, and I appreciate Foxy for the kind words and the conversation and the encouragement he has given me over the past year and a half and some change, always telling me never to settle, always telling me I could probably do this on my own, but I appreciate you, Foxy, and I love you from the bottom of my heart, and I mean that. And my guy G Money's in the building. G Money, get on. What it do, my guy?
So before we move on to the first topic, I want to see if this works. All right.
Oh yeah.
Like you said, you were chilling with our guy Dexter Henry the other day,
Yes, sir.
kind of just talking Knicks, and that was
Yes,
a
sir.
huge opportunity. So we just want to shout out Dexter,
Yes.
because like we've always said, our whole goal here is not to just build our platform. You know, we definitely want this to be a place where others feel like their voice can be heard, and he's doing that same exact thing on a bigger stage. And the fact that he even considers us, worthy of being on that with him is truly an honor. So I'm going to try and play a little clip of this. Hector, you can stop it whenever you want to stop it. But I figure we at least let people see a little bit and see what that was like. So here we go.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
All right, let's
5-game winning streak came to an end on Friday night in the Big Easy as New York fell to the Pelicans 113-105. There's one more game left in the regular season. So let's talk some Knicks hoops with one of the co-hosts of the Knicks Morning Brew. That is Hector Beauchamp. Hector, how you doing, man?
I'm feeling good. Like you said, Knicks is playing good right now, even though we lost last night. Yankees are playing. So I'm just at a happy moment right now in my life, Dexter.
Okay, I like that. I like happy New York sports fans. We need more happiness. That's what we need for sure. Now, Hector.
Absolutely.
I know things are good. The vibes are good for you guys. The Knicks, they lost to New Orleans in a hard-fought game where the team had nothing to play for as far as the standings go. Did you see any bright spots over these past few games where the Knicks' young players in the rotation received heavy minutes? And how do you see their recent play translating to the postseason?
Well, you said it perfectly with the young players, right? And the confidence is a key word for these young players. Obi Toppin, for the majority part of the season, 80 to 90% of the time, been parked at the three-point line. So seeing him being opened up and allowing him to do what Obi Toppin could do well, cut the floor, get to the basket, and not just try to be a three-point shooter out there. I love what I've been seeing out of these young guys, Quentin Grimes, Emmanuel Quickly. The step forward from these young Knicks has been truly impressive.
Yeah, it's been a really impressive showing from the young Knicks. We saw that in multiple games this week, Indiana, and then even in New Orleans, a note wasn't lost. Now, last night in New Orleans, we saw the return of R.J. Barrett. He was out a couple games with sickness, illness. It's been an up-and-down season for the Knicks swingman. Do you view him as an X factor in the Knicks' upcoming first-round series with the Cavaliers?
So absolutely, right? Because we know what we're going to get out of Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson. That's, if Julius Randle comes back healthy, knock on wood. But if we get 25 and 10 from Julius, 23 to 24 with 6 to 8 assists from Jalen, R.J. Barrett, if he could provide 20 points with solid defense, definitely could be an X factor. And it's going to be a big part if the Knicks could advance to that next round.
All right, Hector, the Pacers come to the Garden on Sunday. It's the regular season finale. The Knickerbockers have been playing some good basketball lately, winning 5 out of the last 6 games. So how imperative is it that they head into the playoffs with a victory?
Well, Dexter, you obviously want to go into the playoffs on a high, right? Whether that be 1, 2 games in a row. What you don't want to do is going on a losing streak, right? I understand that. But what I don't want Tom Thibodeau to try to force an issue, right? Rest whoever you got to rest. Do not let anybody go out there, God forbid, pull a hamstring or get injured by any means necessary. Just build on the confidence, like I said, for the young players and try to make something good happen for the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what Knicks fans want to see. They want to see good vibes. A win would be nice heading into the first round against the Cavaliers, but it would be nice if everybody's healthy. That's what everybody wants. We'll see how the Knicks do. That is Hector Beauchamp from Knicks Morning Brew. Go check out their show early in the morning, getting you the best talking about Knicks basketball early in the morning, because sometimes we need that. Hector, I appreciate you. We'll do this again. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you. Yay! Yeah. I did that. Yay!
Boy. And so this is where we announce that Heck has given our 2-week notice. Him and Dexter Henry.
never, ever gonna happen. You and Jigga know that my dream is to eventually be able to get to WFAN to be able to call some of the either games or however it works out. But WFAN is the dream for me, but I'm never going to leave my brother Phil or my brother Jigga. So y'all don't got to worry about that. No 2 weeks notice, but I appreciate everybody in the chat. Pudgy Nice. We've been doing this going for 2 years, bro. Knowing each other for 2 years, my guy, 100%. I appreciate you, G Money, as well. And of course, Uncle Foxy, my man on Hell's in the building. Ooh, what it do, my guy. A very dope content creator. He lives on Twitter, something that I can't do. I'm a little bit too scared to be on Twitter nowadays, but shout out to my man in the chat. Shout out to the entire VSN family. Let's see. TC still says Hector replace it, but nobody can replace that man. Nobody can replace Sir Charles. But Phil, I appreciate the words. I appreciate that post that you left on my Instagram. I appreciate you, brother. But let's jump back into the conversation. Even though the Brew Crew had a nice weekend, the Knicks had an even better season. When it comes to the Knicks, we have 48 wins on the season. And one thing I'm going to tell us Knicks fans, let's just sit back and enjoy what we are seeing, right? When it comes to being a team that wins on the road, our team this year, we have the third most wins on the road in our franchise history, right? 48 wins. The first time, it was second time in over 20 years that we were able to win 45 plus games. Obviously, we go back to the Carmelo Anthony days. But Phil, what's your thoughts on the season before we take a deep dive into the playoffs?
Yeah, my thoughts on the season is this was supposed to be a season of transition. And with transition, I think one thing that we have to realize is that, transition it's almost, but it's not there yet, and we have to be okay with that as fans, like going into the playoffs, we can't hold unrealistic expectations, but we need to celebrate what we're able to celebrate, like celebrate what we have done. We have to celebrate that last year, Tibbs was an old dog who learned no new tricks whatsoever. We can't say that this year. There has been some change in Tom Thibodeau. Whether you think Thibodeau is the future or not, it doesn't matter. We still have to celebrate the good that has come out of this, the changes that were made, and we got to this point because of some of those changes. We have to celebrate the growth in our guys. Early in the season, Emmanuel quickly was as confused as anything of who he was as a player. Yes. Halfway through the season, he fell into his rhythm, his element. Ideas of even trading him have completely gone out of anybody in the front office's mind because this kid has become an absolute full package. Quentin Grimes went from a player who was a little bit timid to throw up the three to now at the end of the season being able to catch and release immediately and having the kind of stroke of a three-point shooter that you want to see. Obi Toppin, you're starting to see him get that confidence of saying, screw it, I'm good at the three, but I'm best at this, and I'm going to utilize those things. Mitchell Robinson, you saw a freaking spin move by Mitchell Robinson in that last game. Like a spin move. Like whether or not he made it or not, I did not care. Because if that is something he can actually come into and actually polish, that's going to be incredible. Jalen Brunson, best freaking trade that we have done in an offseason in freaking so long. He has seriously broken the mold of every single person's expectations. Even those of us who are excited to have him, he's surpassed those. So Julius Randle has shown that he can grow as a player year in and year out and still have more to give. So when you look at our whole team, we have a lot to celebrate. I understand we all have what we think is going to be success or not when it comes to the playoffs, but we have so much to celebrate when it comes to the actual regular season. And so I am thankful for that. And I'm thankful to see what this team becomes because there is a lot of promise with these young guys and a lot of promise with our roster as it is.
Yeah, 100%, bro. When I look back and reflect on this season, I understand the 10-13 start, how everybody wanted to fire Tom Thibodeau out the gates, but the growth from a lot of these players, first and foremost, the growth of Julius Randle. We all know what happened last season between Julius Randle and the fans and the organization. Julius Randle has been able to rewrite and he has rewritten his story when it comes to being a Knick, right? As well as Jalen Brunson. You mentioned Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson has been so good for us. You got Mark Cuban over there crying like a 5-year-old child that just lost some candy or whatever, right? But ultimately, the growth of these young players, like I mentioned before, the growth of these young players, whether that is IQ, whether that's Quentin Grimes, Obi Toppin. You've seen the emergence of Deuce McBride being able to add a little offense to his game. We all know Deuce McBride for one thing and one thing only, and that's defense, defense, defense. But this season, he's been able to prove that he can knock down that open three. So teams, they can't little shy off of him a little bit. So the growth of our young players, Jericho Sims, even though he laid an egg at the slam dunk contest, I still got to say I'm impressed by the growth of Jericho Sims. And when you look at our starting lineup, it's easy to point to Brunson or Randle or even RJ or Grimes, but Mitchell Robinson, we understand he still gets in a little foul trouble here or there, but this season has been the best season of Mitchell Robinson's career. And like you said, Phil, if Mitchell Robinson is able to add in a little spin move, you can unlock him and he'll be a certified demon out there on the court. But ultimately, Tom Thibodeau and this front office need to get the respect that they deserve. I know, Phil, you may not be 100% a Tom Thibodeau fan, right? But when you look at this front office and you look at our coaching staff, we have shown a level of consistency that you haven't seen from the Knicks since the 90s, right? We have 3 seasons in a row that we have the same head coach and we got the same front office. When's the last time that happened? Normally after 3 seasons with a regime, whether it be a front office or a coach, us Knicks fans are looking to fire them and bring somebody new in. Hell, people are still trying to fire Tom Thibodeau to bring somebody new in. But I'm just saying, ultimately, what you're seeing right now is a level of consistency that this organization has not shown since its heydays in the 90s, bro.
Yeah, and that's the thing is when it comes to, I have some people that are like, I don't think you've ever given Tibbs credit. And I'm like, you obviously don't watch the show. Like,
a little bit. You be giving credit. You be giving the credit, bro.
You're not subscribed to the Knicks Morning Brew. I don't have to think that they are the best choice for tomorrow to think that they're making an impact, to ignore that they're making an impact today. Like, we would not be where we're at without Thibodeau. Like, it's just the way it is.
Facts.
Like, there's a lot of things that had to happen. But that doesn't mean that moving forward, I have to think that this is the end all be all, So I got to give a shout out to the front office. I got to give a shout out to Tibbs. Things that were done have gotten us to where we're at, and we have to, celebrate that. But I call the good plus the bad. That doesn't make me a hater. That just makes me honest. And that's just how it is. I'm thankful for where we're at. I'm thankful for this team. There's things that, we have done well and things that we have done poorly as a team that we need to see kind of change or be altered going into the playoffs. That's for sure. And so we should use this season and use this week off as a time for our front office and our coach to kind of look and see where we thrived and where we kind of fell apart when it came to the main season. Because I think that we're going to need that for sure when it comes to the playoffs. We're going to need that kind of discernment of seeing what worked and what didn't.
100%. But let's jump into the conversation. I see my guy Pudgy Nice. He said Tibbs drafted these guys. The fans made Tibbs play them 100%. Pudge, I'm gonna need you. I know Pudge Nice loves to switch up his profile picture. Pudge, are you gonna switch it up for the playoffs? Are we gonna see something new, Pudge? I just gotta know. I know the people in the back definitely want to know. But G Money said, shout out to the players, the front office, the coach, and the coaching staff, right? 100%. Jiggaman said, I don't understand why people think they can tell people how to fan. Word. I definitely do not understand that. Make that make sense. For me, becoming someone who considers himself like an independent journalist, or however you want to put it, one of the first rules of journalism that you learn is you got to be able to dissect the situation. If I'm doing a story on my friend Phil, right? Phil, I consider him a brother. I consider him a friend and stuff like that. If I'm going to do a story on Phil, I got to be able to be as non-objective as possible. I got to be able to take myself outside of that box and be able to criticize Phil, right? Without showing any type of favoritism, right? That's the first rule you learn in journalism, right? Is you got to be able to just take the blinders off and be able to tell a story for what it actually is. And as a fan, you got to be able to do the same thing. I love this team. I've been a Knicks fan since 2003, 2004. I'm going to be as honest as I can when it comes to this team, when it comes to my takes. And if you don't like it, I'm not telling you how to be a fan. I'm not telling you how to have your takes. Just like here on the show, we try to make this show a non-debate format. This is not a debate. We are here giving out each other's takes. We're listening to the conversation, and that's it. Now, if somebody says something outlandish, then we can have a conversation. That's a different story. But let me go a quick shout-outs real quick. We got the Queen Ebony in the building. Ebony, what you doing? Hope all is well. Hope you had an amazing Easter weekend as well. My guy, Mr. Chin Sundays in the building. Hope all is well, Mr. Chin. But let's jump into the conversation, Phil, and I'll throw it over to you to lead the way. When it comes to the first one, do you think Randle will be back for the playoff? Because I got a little inside information that I was saving just for this. Go ahead, Phil.
All right. So before we go into it, I see Ebony in the chat. If you guys have not watched our last episode with Ebony, you are straight slipping, because she is a voice I believe that everybody who is in Knick fandom needs to listen to. I think there's not enough opportunities for the women of Knick fandom to speak. And so anytime Ebony wants on, she's got an open door. So I posted the link to our channel there. Go and watch the Ebony episode as soon as you get off of this, because she straight up killed it. So shout out to the queen. But moving forward, I don't know your
hold on, and on cue, Pudge Nice changes his profile picture. My guy. Go ahead, Phil.
So I don't have your insight yet, so I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. But it is a positive to see that he wasn't in a boot the other day. You know, that's at least something promising, something to kind of look forward to. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, you're such an Obi Toppin fan, you probably don't want Randle to come back. And I'm like, you're a fool. That's not what I'm saying at all. Like, I want Julius Randle back. Like, as much as I love Obi Toppin, I think we need Julius Randle for this series. With the height that they have, with the strength that they have in the paint, we need a player like Obi Toppin and a player like Julius Randle, because when it comes to strength, there's not much more strength on our team than what Julius Randle is able to do in the paint. So I want him back. Do I think he's going to be back to start the series? I'm not 100% sure I believe that, unless your information tells me otherwise, and that's great. But I think it'll probably be like third, fourth game in the series that we see him try to come and play. For me personally, I would rather have 100% clearance on Julius Randle and him come in to the third and fourth game than him come in at like 50-60% in game one, hurt himself more, and then we don't have him for the rest of our playoff series. So I would rather play it safe, bring him in for the games at home, and if we're behind, then those are games that we redeem ourselves, and then we go back into Cleveland and take it. But we'll see. I do hope he comes back, because I do want to see Julius Randle's in the playoffs, and I want to see him successful in the playoffs.
100%. And before we continue, we got about like 15 people in the building. If you guys can hit that like button up for the boys as we continue the conversation, help us with the YouTube algorithm and helps get the show out there to other Knick fans so they can join in on the conversation. But my inside information, we saw Julius Randle on the sideline yesterday with no boot. On Saturday, I have somebody who runs the facilities over at Columbus Circle, the mall that's over there. Julius Randle was shopping with his family, and that person called to tell me that Julius had no boot on and was just walking with no help, no assistance, no anything like that, that he looks like he's ready to go. And that's good news that we need to see from Julius Randle. Obviously, walking in the mall is totally different than actual NBA gameplay on the court. I get that, but it is a good sign to see Julius Randle walking around without any assistance, without a boot, without anything. Shout out to my man Ron and John. Still Knick fans is in the building. Like I always say, go support and follow and subscribe to my guys, because they're doing real good things over there, right? I love the both of them, Ron and John, especially Ron with that smooth voice of his. But no, when you look at it, like you said, when it comes down to the series against the Cleveland Cavaliers, we definitely need Julius Randle, right? You cannot replace 25 and 10 just like that. But what we've seen out of Obi Toppin over the past few games since Julius Randle has been out, the confidence level in Obi Toppin has shot through the roof. Now we can actually say, when we pull Julius Randle off the court to rest him for a few minutes, I know Tom Thibodeau and I know us Knick fans have the confidence in Obi Toppin that he can actually be an impactful player on the court when he comes in as a reserve. Now, it all depends how many minutes he plays, but I'm happy to see that Obi Toppin is not just parking himself at the 3-point line, right? Over these past few games, you've seen his bag just like develop, right? Being able to take his defender off the ball, being able to slice to the rim, being able to just cut and transition, dunk the ball. That's what we want to see out of Obi Toppin. That's what we were showed when he was in college in Ohio, with Ohio. But it's good to see him doing it on the NBA court. I was super impressed from Obi Toppin and the rest of our young guys, but specifically Obi Toppin, and that confidence level, that confidence boost is what he needed going into this first round, Phil.
Yeah, and what I love about this whole Obi Toppin thing is, first, a lot of people try to discredit it, and they're like, oh, he played G League team. No, he didn't play a G League team. He played 3 of their starters in one game, 2 of them in another, and then their bench. And you're going to say that that's not good enough because it's their bench. But what you don't realize is that Obi Toppin is our bench. Like, he is not our starter. So to say that Obi Toppin is doing this against bench players as a discredit kind of just validates my point that if we let Obi Toppin do what Obi Toppin does, coming off the bench against their bench, then even if it's half of what he was able to do in these last few games, instead of getting 36 points, he got 18 or 20. That is still a huge contribution to what we're doing. And you also can't negate the fact that, yes, he's been doing things that we've been wanting him to see, but he's still having that confidence from the 3-point line. And in 2 of those games, his field goal percentage from 3 was the exact same as our best 3-point shooter in Quentin Grimes. Like,
Facts.
They had number to number the same percentage. So to not utilize these in the playoffs, not utilize these skills, whether Julius is back or not, would be foolish. We have these tools for a reason. So let's use it. Let's use what our number 8 pick is able to do, whether it's having him start because Julius is out or Julius is back. Give Julius some time, especially because he's coming back from an injury. You don't want to play him the same amount of minutes that you were playing him right before his injury, right when he comes back.
Right.
Let Obi Toppin get some moments. Let him do what he did in these past games against their bench and utilize them against Cleveland's bench, because Cleveland's bench is not that great. So to have Obi Toppin be able to do this kind of stuff against Cleveland's bench is going to be huge for us in the playoffs. So got to give props to Obi. Got to give props to the fact that he got those minutes.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, people are going to try to pick apart whatever they want to try to pick apart, right? They're going to try to downplay a situation. Oh, he was playing the bench. He was playing G Leaguers. We understand we're not asking Obi Toppin to be a starter in our rotation during the playoffs, right? So him being able to do the damage that he did against the bench units and against some G Leaguers, if you want to throw that in there, Kyle, I give it to you. The confidence level is what we needed to see, right? We needed to see him build his confidence up, knowing that, hey, I only can do this in practice, but I can also do this in actual games and minutes that actually mean something. That's what we need to see from Obi Toppin. So the confidence factor is through the roof. Let's jump over to the next story. And obviously, it's one of, I would say, enigmas this season when it comes to RJ Barrett, the love-hate relationship between the Knicks fans and RJ Barrett. I understand the disappointment that a lot of fans feel from RJ Barrett, because I know for me, I had the expectations that RJ Barrett was going to take that next step forward. I thought RJ Barrett would take that next step forward, average anywhere from 25, 26 points a game, and be on that fringe, borderline all-star level. Sadly, I was disappointed. He wasn't that so far for me this season. What's your thoughts on RJ Barrett? And do you think he can be that X factor that we need going into the first round of the playoffs, Phil?
So it's hard, man, because I feel like, once again, it comes to our expectations of what we thought RJ Barrett could be, as opposed to just judging RJ Barrett off of RJ Barrett. The thing is RJ Barrett's stats are not bad, especially if you consider the series, that stretch of games where it was like 10 games where he was like at like 5%, shooting, and he was like making 1 out of every 20 shots he was throwing up. And we were just like, what the hell happened to this kid? Like, that still leaves him for the season at almost 20 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game, and 43% from the field. That is not what we think of when we just say RJ Barrett. And I think it's because, once again, he's not being utilized well. Like, even in these last few games, he was thriving when he was going to the paint, but he's still chucking up 9 3-pointers. Why is this kid shooting any 3-pointers if his 3-pointers are not great? Like, I know that people say, like, oh, well, shooters are supposed to shoot until it comes back. He is not a shooter. Like, he is not. No matter what our front office tries to make him, it is obvious that his strength is driving and drawing a foul. Like, drawing the foul and then hitting his free throws. If he focused on that, we would have a different player. There is, but the problem is with the rotation as it is, when there's Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, and Julius Randle, you have 2 other guys that are strengths, that their strength is what his strength is, which is driving to the paint. So you force this guy who doesn't have a 3-point shot to now have to try and shoot a 3-point shot all the time. And so it makes him look like a worse player than he actually is. Imagine if he didn't shoot 9 to 12 3-pointers per game and he used those shots to go back into the paint. Like, it would be better. His percentages would be up. His points per game would be up. His assists would be up. So I can't, knock him. I think that his season is for sure less impressive than I had hoped it would be. But I'm not ready to give up on him. Like, I really want to see him step up and contribute in the playoffs. But I think that our coaching staff definitely has something to figure out on how to utilize people's strengths. I think that's the most important thing, is utilize their strengths, not just make them fit into your preconceived game plan, because some of these players are not being effective because of their role.
Yeah. And shout out to my man, Blood of the Panther, the top moderator of all the top moderators. Hit that like button for the boys. And if you aren't subscribed, hit the subscribe button as well. Our subscribers have been going through the roof. We are at 364, and we're still going right now. But yeah, everything you said about RJ Barrett, you hit it right on the head. Do I want to give up on RJ Barrett? No, I don't want to give up on RJ Barrett, but it all depends on what happens in the postseason with RJ Barrett. Like Stephen Fox says, if RJ plays defense like he did yesterday, his minutes will decrease, and they should decrease. He was horrible defensively last game of the season. You don't want to see that. And the game before that, he was beaten every time by his defender trying to get to the hole, and it's just sad to see. I think, hold on, Budge Nice put it in the chat. Acquiring Josh Hart, it made RJ expendable. The emergence of Emmanuel quickly as well has made RJ expendable. As much as we want to praise our young guy who was drafted 3rd overall, we got to be honest with ourselves. He's not a shooter, like you said. He's not that knockdown, lights out shooter who's a sharpshooter. He's not that. His best game is driving to the hole and being able to get to the rim, drawing a foul however he can to get to the free throw line. But it's kind of hard to do that when the paint is just filled up with defenders, right? Mitchell Robinson, we understand Mitchell Robinson. He's not a stretch big. So if Mitchell Robinson is in the paint, his man is going to be in the paint. It's going to make it harder for RJ to get to the paint. RJ just has to pick and choose his spots when to attack. That's what RJ Barrett has to do. Pick and choose when he needs to attack. And also, just be more careful with the ball. The amount of turnovers that RJ Barrett has in a game, it's very concerning and it's alarming. You can't have that in the postseason. There's been many times this season as we're watching the games that we look at the stat sheet and we see RJ Barrett with anywhere from 4 to 5 to 6 turnovers. You can't have that, especially in the playoffs. You can't give the Cleveland Cavaliers extra opportunities. You can't do that. You can't do that against Donovan Mitchell. You can't do that against Darius Garland, Karis LeVert, right? Mobley. You can't do that against that group of players. So RJ Barrett, just pick and choose your spots to attack. Be more careful with the ball. And if you don't have an open lane, do not force the issue. Pass it out to Jalen or pass it out to Julius and let the team regroup. You saw Obi Toppin and him get into it on the bench, and it's because he's not passing the ball. RJ Barrett has to pass the ball, and when he does pass the ball, you see he could be effective that way, being a playmaker. RJ is a phenomenal playmaker, and he needs to lean on that part of his game. We can't have him averaging 6, 7, 8 turnovers in the postseason, because if that's the case, we'll be done in 5 or 6 games. We're not going to even make it to 7. if he's turning the ball over here or there. But I'm gonna stop with my little rant right now because I want to hear the audio from RJ Barrett, and Phil and I will be able to discuss it.
I would say this season just taught me, like how many good players you can have on a team, and like it's still like work, and everybody still be effective, and that's something that was is great. It feels good to be just on this team where so many players play well, on any given night, and so many players can bring anything to the table. I think it makes our team just so deadly. So that's kind of what I take from this season, as well as just like continuing to stick with it. It really wasn't looking the greatest at the beginning of the year, but we always say there's 82 games, and at this point, I think it's gone very well so far. So we just got to try to finish it up.
You are muted.
But thank you for that. Blood of the Panther says RJ gets tunnel vision. We need him to have his head up, even when he fully intends to drive and shoot. Just be open to moving the ball if situations change it. 100%. Phil, what's your thoughts on this statement from Blood of the Panther and what you just heard from RJ?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's all speculation, so I don't know if this is true or not. So if you're a Tibbs guy, don't at me on Twitter. I'm not trying to hear it. But I feel like what we have seen a lot. Yeah, don't at me. Like, I'm just gonna mute you. Let's just be honest. You'll still be followed, but I ain't gonna listen to you. So the thing is it's all speculation. One thing I say I love about Tibbs is the changes that he's made, but that I need to see more actual like in-game kind of situational changes. And so I feel like our structure has kind of been very preemptive instead of very formidable inside an actual game. So if the plan is for RJ to be an attacker, that is what our players are doing. Okay. RJ's supposed to attack. That's what he's going to go out and do right now, because that's what Tibbs has told him to do. And that's the recipe that Tibbs wants to follow. I don't know if that's right or not. I definitely think there has to be some personal accountability there on RJ. I feel like Grimes has been rising to the occasion when it comes to that, like being able to see and switch things up as you go. But I also think something that he said is very important in that. He talked about how he didn't know that you could have so many good players on one given team, which is a great strength. But he said on any given night, someone could be great. And I think that with certain players, that frees up some responsibility on them, where they're like, oh, if I kind of, don't have it tonight, the rest of the guys will pick up my slack. And I feel like from some of the conversations I've heard from RJ's work ethic over the summer and moving forward, they're different than they were in previous seasons. I feel like that work ethic would be a little more like, oh, my guys got me. If I screw up and I'm not shooting well, I'm going to keep shooting. These guys will take care of it. As opposed to a Grimes or a Quickly that don't care who else is in the rotation. They don't want to be the guy that other people have to pick up the slack.
Facts.
So that's the one thing that I caught from that interview, was sometimes a benefit could also be a hindrance for certain kind of players and how they see the game.
Facts. And Foxy just put this alarming stat in the chat. RJ got his shot blocked 94 times in 73 games. That's after getting his shot blocked 105 times last season. So there's a little growth, right? There's a little growth. It's a little growth. It's a little growth right there, but that's alarming. That's not what you need to see from RJ Barrett. And I'm joking with the whole growth component of it, but RJ Barrett, he has to do better when it comes to picking and choosing when to attack, right? He has to understand the defenders right there. Throw a little extra hesitation. Watch some film this all season of Jimmy Butler on how he gets to the foul line, because so far in RJ Barrett's 4 years as a pro, it hasn't looked good. It hasn't looked good, and I get it. Expectations are expectations. People can point to the fact that Zion is always injured. You can point to the fact that John Morant decided to become an actual rapper and do a lot of random stuff off the court, but when it comes to RJ Barrett, he just needs to do better, right? We could go through that draft and we could pick probably 5 players that were drafted after RJ Barrett, that it's a solid argument that they would be a better choice on our team than RJ Barrett is right now. RJ Barrett needs to be on a team that has a stretch big, that has shooters around that can stretch the court. That way RJ Barrett can attack the open lane and get to the basket. If he doesn't have that, he's not going to be successful. That's why RJ Barrett, he plays a lot better when Isaiah Hartenstein is out there, because Isaiah Hartenstein can stretch the floor just a little bit. He can add that little extra cautiousness that defenders have to, all right, I can't sag off of him, because he can knock it down if he gets an open shot, right? So that's why RJ Barrett works better with Isaiah Hartenstein. Besides that, RJ Barrett, you need to defend a hell of a lot better. A hell of a lot better. Your defense needs to step up this postseason, because if you're playing the same type of defense, right? If you're playing the same type of defense that we've been seeing the past couple of days, we ain't going to see them. We're not going to make it past the first round. And you want me to name them? Darius Garland. You're going to tell me you wouldn't rather have Darius Garland on this team than RJ Barrett? Huh? I'm asking you a question, Phil.
Oh, I thought you were asking him, because he's
no. I'm asking you. Would you rather have Darius Garland than RJ Barrett?
Yeah, I hate to say it,
who's the better scorer? RJ. Who's the better scorer, Tyler Hero or RJ Barrett?
I feel like just scoring alone, Tyler Hero, but I think other parts of his game leave something to be desired.
Who would you rather have, Jordan Poole or RJ Barrett?
This season, I would say RJ Barrett.
You rather have RJ Barrett than Jordan Poole?
This year, yeah, I would.
Okay, all right.
I would.
We're going to restart the show and start this all over again, right? But let's get into the next one. Go ahead.
Hold up. Before we go, I want to give a shout out to our chat, because whether there's 100 people in the chat or 10 people in the chat, I love that we have minds that actually think and talk and share great points.
All love, King Foxy, Ribby. All love.
Foxy right here. Foxy said a consistent MIDI can change RJ's career like it did DeRozan, which is so true. Can make him a completely different player. And then Ron was talking about RJ needing to not so much do these solo off seasons where he's just training on his own or with his own people, but actually training with the team. And one thing I would say about RJ's training is, if you look at Quentin Grimes' training, he trained with someone that was an outside mind that has succeeded in the things that Quentin Grimes wanted to succeed at. So Quentin Grimes was confident in his three-pointer. He didn't work with three-point shooters this summer.
I'm just saying. I like Bobo.
he didn't work with Reggie Miller and with freaking Ray Allen and stuff like that over the summer. He wanted confidence on putting the ball to the ground and how he could finish in the paint, because those weren't his strong suits. So he worked out with Penny Hardaway all summer. I think that's something RJ needs to do, is work with somebody that is experienced, that can add something new to his game, add something that's going to push him as a player to step out of what he thinks is the recipe and actually look and be like, no, this is where you can be stronger. So yeah, let's move on to the next topic. What we got?
Word. Right. I 100% Pudge. RJ should have been at the Gauchos training 100%. Let's jump into the next one, because we got it right here for the conversation. Will our bench be the X factor? And I'm going to start it off, Phil, because 100%, and I'm going to stand by this. When it comes to our bench, I honestly believe we have the best bench unit in the entire NBA. If not the best bench unit, we are definitely top 3 when it comes to our bench unit, right? Emmanuel Quickly, the defense that he provides this season, the way that Josh Hart has come aboard this team, and literally you would have thought he's been here for the past 3 seasons. Obi Toppin, we already talked about Obi Toppin. Isaiah Hartenstein, our bench unit is a solid bench unit, and you saw it when Obi, when IQ, when Quentin Grimes, right? I know Grimes is a starter, but when those 3 guys are on the court at the same time, how many assists do we have over these past game? Those 3 average about 20 to 25 assists on their own between those 3, right? And that's what you need to be an X factor in the postseason. What's your thoughts, Phil?
Yeah, like I think when it comes to this playoff series, especially against the Cleveland Cavaliers, I feel like if you look at our starters, um, it's pretty much neck and neck. They might have some, strengths elsewhere. When it comes to a certain player that in our starting lineup, we have a different player that can thrive in that area. So it kind of matches out a little bit. But when it comes to the bench, and I look at their bench, they have some decent bench players, but no one that makes me go, man, that could be a problem. Like that guy's going to be a problem. We've said it before. I think it was when we had Lee Escobedo. He was talking about how their best scorer when it came to their bench and who always killed us was Kevin Love, and they traded him. So when it comes to who I'm actually worried about when it comes to their bench unit, I'm not super worried about their bench unit. I think that our bench unit is going to be our strength, which is going to be what helps us thrive. So I feel like we need to be playing it smart. Like if they take off their starters, I think we need to realize that their starters are sitting and let our starters sit as well. So it's not a matter of our starters playing at certain times where, like their bench is in, and then vice versa, that their starters are then playing our bench and gaining that traction back in the game. I want our bench to annihilate their bench so that when their starters come back in the game, there's a lot of uphill battle that they have to do to get back in it. So I feel like every time our bench unit is in, that's going to be an opportunity for us to help get away from them a little bit. And so I'm excited to see what our bench can do because, like you said, seeing that bench unit move was insane. Was insane seeing the fluidity with our players, seeing the selflessness of how they played, seeing iHeart freaking have tunnel vision and be able to find these passes. And so I think that with the chemistry that we've seen from these guys these last few games, I'm glad that our young guys were playing with each other in these last 3-4 games because going into the playoffs, they kind of have a chemistry that they might not have had going into the playoffs, which could definitely be our X factor for sure.
Oh, definitely. I'm already getting beat up in the chat for my comments that I made about RJ and Darius Garland. All I'm saying is when we drafted RJ Barrett, our point guards of the future was Frank Ntilikina and Dennis Smith Jr. Darius Garland was an all-star with the Cleveland Cavaliers as a point guard. That's all I'm saying. But jumping back into the conversation when it comes to our bench unit, right, is going to run up and down the court. That's the thing. When you have the starters who like to slow the ball down, they play a lot of ISO ball, and then you got the bench unit coming in that loves to push it and loves to have a fast-paced offense, it throws off the scouting report for the opposing team. You don't know how you're going to be attacked. Now, I know a lot of people say Tom Thibodeau doesn't have offensive schemes. Kind of true. But Johnny Bryant is an offensive wizard over there on the sideline. And we've seen Tom Thibodeau, how he has gone more to Johnny Bryant later on in the season, especially to get this team rolling when it comes to the offense. So being able to have two schemes out there, one with the starting unit that is a slow pace, ISO, penetration type of basketball, bully basketball to the 90s. And then you got the bench unit coming in that's more of an upbeat, fast-paced, push-the-ball type of offense. It throws off the scouting reports from both teams. It absolutely does. Shout out to my man Benji in the building. Benji, what it do? Francisco Carrillo's in the building. He said, we ain't simping over here. Absolutely.
Yeah,
100%, 100%. Go ahead, bro.
One thing I want to ask you if you saw, it's not one of our points, but there was an interview with Mitchell Robinson, and they were asking him what he thought about their, double big men in the paint. Like, what
did he ask about?
They have?
Did he say he wants to start shooting threes again? Well, no, different conversation.
Honestly, I wouldn't mind. I'd throw him some money if I saw a 3-point shot in the playoffs. But he was asked like what he thought about like them having two big men, and he said, "What? We got two big men." And they were like, "Yeah, but they're starters." And he's like, "So, and it's good. We got it, And so like, I wonder, like, what are the chances of Tibbs stepping outside of the box? If it starts to look like their strength is in the fact that they have these two big guys and they are eating us alive in the paint. Let's say that happens because as much as I love Mitch, we know that Mitch gets into foul trouble with bigs, and that can be scary for us. So he can't do that with these two guys. So what are the possibilities of Tibbs stepping outside of the preconceived plan and actually utilizing the fact that we do have three big guys on the roster? Like, what are the chances of, if all they're doing is scoring in the paint, us actually seeing a, Mitch and Sims or a Mitch and Hart for a few minutes, like on the court together and battling that Twin Towers with our own version of the Twin Towers, especially if Julius Randle's out and he's not able to give us any of that like strength.
Knock on wood. I know you have a table in front of you. Knock on the table.
Like, I don't want that to be the case, but what are the chances? We have three big men. Why not put blow for blow on those big guys, to make sure that if they're the ones that are doing it, like you saw Tim Duncan and Duncan Robinson, teams were trying to utilize what they could on their bench, to battle those guys because that was their biggest strength, and so if we see that it being a strength, because the last time we saw them, we didn't see Jared Allen. Like we didn't and that's a huge component, especially for a team that is so good at getting into the paint and being crafty, getting into the paint. Having two big guys can alter that. So I would actually like to see some switches and maybe see Jericho Sims get on the court with one of those two big guys, or getting a few iHeart and, Mitchell, plays out of it as well.
No, I would love to see that as well, but you got to have the right pieces around them, right? If you have Mitchell Robinson and you got Jericho Sims out there being your 5 and 4s, then I would say you need to have Josh Hart to be out there because he's able to get rebounds and he can knock down the open shot. Now, it all comes down to, are we going to have Jalen and IQ? Are we going to have Jalen and Grimes? Are we going to have IQ and Grimes? That's what it all comes down to. And it's all going to depend if this situation can work or that strategy can work. You need to have guys who can defend and guys who are shooters around them, right? Because at the same time, as much as we want to see our Twin Towers out there on the court, both Jericho Sims and Mitchell Robinson, they get into foul trouble, right? They definitely do get into foul trouble. And that's the one thing that you don't want to have both your centers out there, potentially both getting easy fouls, getting fouls and getting into foul trouble, because now you got to move off of that, throw Isaiah Hartenstein back into it, and you got to wait to use either Mitchell Robinson or Jericho Sims, most likely Mitchell Robinson. So use them in the ways that you can use them. Obviously, we need Mitchell Robinson to be on his A game in order to counteract Jared Allen down there in the paint, right? Because Jared Allen, he is a dog down there. We're not going to lie. He is a dog down there. But it all depends on how Julius Randle is when he comes back, right? Not sure if you guys saw that conversation between our guy, CP, the franchise, and Rasheed Wallace and Alex as well, but they was having a conversation on Rasheed Wallace, what he used to do when he used to get ankle sprains. And Rasheed Wallace said, I used to wear Timbs, bro. Trying to make my way back from an ankle injury like that. He said he would wear Timbs during practice and even try to wear them during the games. And that's a real one right there, trying to wear some butter Timbs in the middle of a practice. We all know how Timbs work, but I understand the logic around it. So hopefully Julius Randle saw that, and Julius Randle is just walking around in a pair of Timbs right now, right? But this first round matchup is all going to come down to how healthy Julius Randle is and how effective Julius Randle is, right? This team goes when Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle are on their A game. I am happy that Tom Thibodeau rested Jalen Brunson over these past few games because he was dealing with that wrist injury and also coming back off of the lower body injury with his legs, right? So happy to see that he's rested. We got a whole week off this week. So get your therapy session in, get your PT that you got to do, get the massage gun going, because we need this team to show up this Saturday. And I'm super excited to see what happens this Saturday, Phil.
Yeah, I'm excited. End of the day, we're in the playoffs and we are playing against a team that so many people thought were going to be so much better than we were, and we went toe to toe with them throughout the season.
We playing with house money.
Our team, Yeah, we've proven that our team is incredible. So we're excited. Let's look at these last points that we have here. All right.
Yeah. Well, we just got a few. We got that's separate from the Knicks. But before we do that, shout out to our guy DSJ Delano Still Jr.'s in the building. How you doing, DSJ? I missed you, my guy. And we got our guy Sunil. He is a Dallas Maverick fan, but Sunil is always in these chats every time we're doing Knicks Morning Brew because that's how much he hates Kyrie Irving. When it comes down to is the last Nick talking point just for now. But just so you guys know, this Wednesday, we got our friend, right? Knicks Recap coming in, right? I love my guy Recap. We're going to have a great conversation with him this weekend. And Phil, let them know who's going to be here on Friday, right before the playoff game on Saturday. Let them know.
Yeah, so on Friday, we're going to be chilling with our friend and family to the network, Bill Pito of MSG. So we are going to hang out with Bill Pito. I am doing everything I possibly can. I'm traveling that time, so I'm trying to figure out how to make it possible so I could be rocking with y'all, because anytime we got Bill on the channel, it is seriously a blessing and so much fun to talk basketball with him, especially going into the playoffs. That's going to be a fun episode. So we're looking forward to it. And we're looking forward to Wednesday. Having our boy Nick Recap is always a blessing as well. He is someone that has been a contributor to the channel, whether it's creating graphics for the Smitty and Eddie show or just retweeting, that our show is going on. Even when he's at work and unable to be there, he's making sure that people know that we're live. So we're excited to have both of them on this week.
I can't wait. That conversation with Recap is going to be epic. That conversation with our friend Bill Pito is going to be amazing this Friday, right before the playoffs. But guys, we're coming to close to that time when we got to say goodbye. But before we do that, there was some interesting stuff that happened on the last day of the regular season in the NBA, right? We got to go to this one. Rudy Gobert punching his teammate on the sideline. When I saw this, I'm like, oh my God. And you could tell his teammates hate him, because when that happened, they all pushed and ran towards him to jump him. You could tell whatever happened in Minnesota, it's not a good showing at all. Oh my God. What's your thoughts on this? And don't worry, we're not going to leave right away. We'll still throw it around and we'll still have a conversation, with our first round playoff predictions. But Phil, speak on this moment.
Yeah, man, it's kind of weird because it seems like when things were actually starting to pick up for the Minnesota Timberwolves, they started competing again. They made it into the play-in. Jaden McDaniels was looking great. And all of a sudden, crap has hit the fan in Minnesota. You have Karl Anthony Towns going off in games, fighting for his team to get into the playoffs. And all of a sudden you got Rudy Gobert punching him. You have audio of him going into the locker room with someone recorded where he's telling people, you need to start making choices now. It's just not looking pretty, pretty at all. And you know what's crazy is Rudy Gobert, when Draymond Green punched Poole.
Yeah, he was. Hold on, Foxy. Terry and Prince, look, he gets up and look, he runs toward, and then he separates. The video cuts here, but he runs towards Rudy Gobert like he wanted to hit him.
Oh, yeah. It was crazy. So when Draymond Green punched Poole in practice, it was Rudy Gobert who made a tweet directed at him. And the tweet said, insecurity is always loud. So as soon as this fight video came out and everyone was posting about it, Draymond Green copied and pasted the same exact tweet towards him. So it's funny to see how things come around. But even then, in the same game, Jaden McDaniels gets frustrated at halftime and he punches a wall.
Yeah.
He punches a wall and fractured his hand. So they fought to get into the playoffs. And now they're completely falling apart right before it, which is just weird.
Also, too, after that incident, Rudy Gobert was sent home during the game. They sent him home during the game. That goes to show you that situation in Minnesota, I'm not happy that it's happening to that fan base or to that team. I'm just happy that James Dolan is not the punching bag anymore in the NBA, because that man, it is a buffoon sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But I'm happy that James Dolan has taken a step back. He has fallen back. He's doing billionaire things. Go be a billionaire and do billionaire things. Go enjoy your weekend in the Hamptons. Go enjoy your little horse races that you do with real horses and stuff like that. We do virtual horse racing, but you actually do real horse racing, right? I'm just glad that it's not the Knicks that are the laughing stock. I'm just glad it's not James Dolan being dragged through the mud by the media. I'm just happy that right now we got 47 wins with a 5th seed going into the playoffs. That's what I'm happy of right now. But also, we got more stuff to talk about with this situation. But the Dallas Mavericks, my man Sunil just put it in there. Don't forget, the Mavs are now under investigation for their bench usage over the last 2 games, because this play-in tournament, the Mavs are right there. But they decided they're going to tank the season so they could get that draft pick. They wanted to make sure that they were able to situate that draft pick. It's still a 20 to 22% chance that we can get it with the 11th pick. Hopefully, the NBA gods or do the right thing and put it in our favor and give it to us, because Mark Cuban doesn't deserve it. Mark Cuban is not a Shark Tank anymore. He's not a shark. That man's a guppy. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like you said, it's cool to see all these teams kind of pulling these kind of antics at the end of the season,
Francisco.
where it's just like, yeah, we are not a perfect organization. We're trying. Yeah, and so to be able to say, hey, the Knicks are being talked about in excellence this year. Like, that is something to feel good about. You got what you were talking about with the Mavs. You got what we were talking about with Rudy. We got the Mason Plumlee fighting Bones Highland.
Throw the
situation.
guppies in the chat.
Yeah,
oh man, that was another one too.
That was crazy. And where Batum comes in and pretty much manhandles Highland and sits him down like he's a child. So once again, Tibbs looks a lot better in situations like this. Tibbs got in between RJ and Obi. Their coaches were nowhere to be found. They didn't want none of the drama. RJ, Randle and Quickly, this looks like, cake compared to everything that we're seeing.
Oh, yeah.
So applause to our Knicks. Everything
applause
looks
to our
beautiful.
Knicks, because the situation that happened with Randle and IQ and with Obi and RJ looks like just friends arguing with each other compared to what happened on that last game of the season. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of anger that's going on in these huddles. But I'm just happy that our Knicks aren't the storyline anymore. Shout out to Big Blue in the Bronx, my guy Luca and Alex, the Twin Bills. I will be on with them this Saturday because they're going to be covering the Knicks game, and I will be there checking in with them. And as well, this Saturday, I will be at Yankee Stadium with my guys from Cashing Out NYC. I will be a guest host over there doing trivia with them. So if you guys are around Yankee Stadium this Saturday, make sure you guys go to across the street from the Babe Ruth Plaza. You will see my guys, myself, my guy Gringo, and my guy Mr. C, and it's going to be an amazing time. Shout out to Luca and Alex as well. They do amazing work over there in the Big Blue in the Bronx podcast. Make sure you guys tune in with them, tap in with them. My guy TC still says Hector all over the place, bro. I'm just trying, bro. I'm just trying to make something happen with this. But also it was funny, right? Because with the Rudy Gobert trade, it's gonna go down as the worst trade in NBA history. What's your thoughts on this being potentially the worst trade ever? And send them back to Sacre Bleu. Send them back to France. Do whatever you got to do.
Yeah, it's crazy, because it's unfolding as one of the worst trades. And honestly, I think that kind of helps the whole league.
Yeah.
Because this was the trade that kind of altered how things were being traded, for a long time. He was able to get this for this star player. And now teams are realizing, holy crap, if we buy in this hard with one guy and it doesn't fit us and our culture, we completely rob ourselves of this. We completely bank rob ourselves if we go all in. So yes, it's definitely, to me, the worst trade and continues to unfold. I honestly don't know how they thought it was going to work in the first place. When you look at it, it just doesn't seem like it was well thought out in the first place. and this is what happens in desperation moves. You see this desperation move. You see the Kyrie Irving desperation trade. This should be an alarming, like, hello to teams to not move when you're in that kind of situation, to not go all in for something just because you're desperate. And that leads me to all this Trae Young talk, because that could lead to a very similar trade that if people ignore the dumpster fire that's been Trae Young in Atlanta and they just look at him as the potential of player that he is, it could be something that they bank rob their organization to get this player. And then he brings that same kind of attitude and mentality to them. And him and Gobert could be fighting for worst trade ever.
Oh man, Trae Young's gonna wind up in Detroit. I'm saying it right down. Mark that on your bingo board. Trae Young is gonna be going to Detroit. But when it comes to this Rudy Gobert trade, Rudy Gobert, he has become, I don't want to say an enigma, but he has become enemy number one. Right. Not only is this probably going to go down as one of the worst trades, if not the worst trade, but Rudy Gobert is going to go down as one of the worst teammates of all time. How do you fall out of it with Donovan Mitchell? We all understand the microphone situation that happened right before COVID. And now what happened this season? Rudy Gobert is going to go down as one of the worst teammates and one of the worst trades ever in NBA history. It's kind of sad to see it, but at the same time, Shaq said it. If you guys remember, Shaq was talking about Rudy Gobert. He's overvalued as a guy who just gets 12 to 15 points per game. He's a phenomenal defender, probably one of the best, if not top 3 defenders in the league in his position. But he's one-dimensional. He's a one-trick pony, right? And you get stuck with that one-trick pony. He takes so much of your cap space, right? And I get it. Utah was in a weird predicament. Right. They needed to keep Donovan Mitchell. Rudy Gobert was the only other star that they had on that team. So they needed to overpay him. They overvalued him. But he wasn't a winning basketball player. Defensively, he was phenomenal. But when it comes to anything else, when it comes to scoring, he is non-existent when it comes to scoring. And Francisco just said it. He pissed off Spider by acting dumb during COVID. And you can't be mad at Donovan Mitchell for how he feels towards the man. Right. And now if you're Donovan Mitchell, you just sitting back and you just chuckling and having a good time to yourself, right? But he's a fabulous defender in the paint. Not the like Foxy said, fabulous defender in the paint, but not the perimeter, which is today's NBA. Absolutely 100%. At least when it comes to Mitchell Robinson, we all know Mitchell Robinson can step to the three-point line and defend somebody. Rudy Gobert can't do that. That's the one thing Rudy Gobert can't do, bro.
Yeah, and it's crazy. You see so many players that are like getting the bag, and it's because they have so many things in their bag, so they're able to then secure a deal that is worth all this. So to me, Rudy Gobert never showed much outside of what he does well, which is why it's such a mind-boggling trade, because you didn't find all these things in his arsenal that made you go, oh, he's great as a defender, but he's going to grow into this, or we see the potential of this. We just saw that he was a great defender. And I don't think you ever go all in on a player solely because your team lacks in one area, as if that player is going to be the automatic, like, full-on change for your whole organization.
Facts.
Like the Timberwolves were not the greatest defenders, so they think, oh, let's just get the number one defender in the paint, and all of a sudden our team will be this defensive juggernaut. Well, no, because you're only guarding one area of the basket now. So you're still struggling defensively because this guy only had one thing in his toolbox. And now you're struggling because you need other tools. And so I think, making decisions like that, I think the Timberwolves will always, have questions of what they could have done differently. I think it sucks because you have Karl Anthony Towns, who's probably not going to continue to just buy in and buy in and buy into the Timberwolves for the rest of his career if things aren't changing. And you have players like Jaden Daniels that are young and promising. So you need the right tools now, and Rudy Gobert is just not that. But there's so much money and assets that were invested in him that you either need someone that's going to be stupid enough to do that trade with you, or you're bogged down for a few years.
Bro, it's Foxy said it. Walker Kessler is doing what Rudy Gobert does. But Walker Kessler, he can shoot and he can stretch the floor, right? And that's what Rudy Gobert can't do, right? The story of Rudy Gobert being drafted, I think it was in the second round. Yes, in the second round, being able to turn into the player that he turned into is a phenomenal story. I'm not trying to take that away from this man, Rudy Gobert. I just don't want to beat up on Rudy Gobert or seem like I'm beating up on Rudy Gobert. But, and here comes the but, everything else that comes with it is inexcusable and can't be defended. What you did, acting like you're a 5-year-old during COVID with the touching of the mics and stuff like that, Rudy Gobert, you're probably the reason the NBA shut down, because after you did that, damn near everybody got COVID on that team and then every other team, right? When it comes to it, all the reporters got COVID after you did that, right? So Rudy Gobert, whatever happens to Rudy Gobert, hopefully he finds himself on another team where he's able to reinvent himself, right? Hopefully. I'm not sure if the Minnesota Timberwolves are just going to eat that contract, because I don't know what team's going to trade for him, especially after you mortgage your future. You made it to the playoffs last year. It was amazing to see Minnesota make the playoffs. First time in how many years or whatever. It was a celebration. Everything was amazing. You made the play-in, but then this year you fumbled the bag, and you need to fix the situation before Anthony Edwards wants out of there. Because if Anthony Edwards wants out of there, you're not going to be able to recover losing Anthony Edwards, right? That's all I'm going to say. And like Francisco said, the man is a perpetual man-child. 100% agree with you, Francisco. Phil, when it comes to the Trae Young situation, I agree with you. That trade is probably going to be the same kind of trade with Rudy Gobert. I'm saying that he's most likely going to go to Detroit, but the situation in Atlanta has become super volatile, right? When it comes to Trae Young and the fan base, when it comes to Trae Young and the front office, when it comes to Trae Young and the ownership of the Atlanta Hawks. Do you have a place where you see Trae Young could go this offseason?
Wow. Honestly, I don't. Because here's the thing is, Trae Young was not the same player this year that he was in previous years. Like the thing about Rudy is, as stupid as Rudy was acting, he acted like that man-child in that COVID era, while still playing some of the best basketball that he played in the league. His numbers were the top when he got traded. Trae Young's numbers are not what they were. So honestly, if I was to see him get traded anywhere, I would, see him on a team like the Rockets, possibly, where they pair him with guys like Jalen Green, guys that are good but don't have any playoff experience, similar to the Detroit situation, where, he goes somewhere that is bottom tier, that needs a little bit around him. But I could see him thrive on a team like that. I could even see him on like a Hornets type team, next to, him and Scary Terry, and see what they could do as a front court. But we'll see. I'm more so just excited for the fact that I don't think that we're going to see that team go very far in the playoffs. They're going against the Heat, and I think the Heat are definitely going to take them out easy in the first round. I would be surprised to see the Heat lose to them. So the sooner Trae Young is in off season, the better for me, because I really don't like watching him anymore. So it is what it is.
No, I agree with you real quick. I'm just looking just to see the playoff bracket right now. As of right now, hold on one second. We got the play-in tournament. Let's do predictions. Yeah, the play-in tournament, it starts April 11th, which is literally tomorrow. So you got the Pelicans versus OKC. Then you got the Lakers. Wait, what is this from last year? No, this is 2023.
No, this year.
Yeah, it's this year.
Just go to NBA.com. Go to NBA.com.
No, I am on NBA.com. Why is it showing Minnesota in the play-in? Is Minnesota in the play-in tournament?
Yeah, they're in the play-in.
Oh, well, look at that. But you got the Pelicans versus OKC. You got the Lakers versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's on the West Coast. On the East Coast, you got the Toronto Raptors versus the Chicago Bulls and the Miami Heat against the Atlanta Hawks. What's your predictions for these play-in tournaments, my guy?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be OKC versus Los Angeles Lakers on the West Coast. And I think it's going to be, wow, I think it's going to end up being Toronto versus Miami.
No, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like
if no, the winner,
round.
the winner. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
I
hopefully,
think Toronto's going to beat Chicago. I think
Mhm.
Miami's going to beat Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think LA is going to beat the Timberwolves, and then OKC will beat Los Angeles, and then moving into yeah.
So I think the winners of the Pelicans and OKC plays the Denver Nuggets in the first round, and I think the winners of the Lakers and Timberwolves play the Memphis Grizzlies in the first round. And hopefully LeBron James can last in the playoffs, because we need LeBron James to get far in the playoffs. And playoffs aren't the playoffs without LeBron James. But the winners of the Toronto Raptors and the Chicago Bulls play the Milwaukee Bucks. Then the winners of the Heat and the Hawks play the Boston Celtics. So the way this new play-in tournament is structured, it gives teams a lot of chances. Hopefully there's a few upsets, but I think I got Denver winning it, whoever it is. And I'm not sure about Memphis. That's the thing. Memphis is a young team. They had their issues this year with John Morant. So if it's the Lakers versus the Memphis Grizzlies, which I definitely think it's going to be, I think the Lakers have a solid chance. But at the same time, I'm not counting out those young Memphis Grizzlies, bro. What about you?
Yeah, so for me, it all depends on how healthy the Lakers can stay. You know, like at the end of the day, they are so bought into their starting lineup, you know, at that organization. You know, the health of their starting lineup is key. I feel like with the Memphis Grizzlies, there's a lot younger guys that haven't faced as big of injuries, and they have a little more like firepower off their bench than the Lakers do.
Right.
And so the Lakers have to stay healthy to compete. I think the experience that LeBron has, you know, is going to set that series apart, that it's even going to be a competition because of that. And so I think the key for the Lakers to win is to shut down John Morant. You know, if they shut down Ja, I think it's going to put a lot of pressure onto the rest of the team. And I don't know if they'll be able to handle that, because when you look at the Lakers' new lineup, they have a lot of offensive power now. It's not just shut down LeBron and you can win like it was early in the season.
Facts.
So I think they made the right moves that they needed going into the playoffs.
Also, too, Anthony Davis, you need to step up. If the Lakers are going to do anything, Anthony Davis has to turn back into what we knew Anthony Davis was before. If Anthony Davis is just a shell of himself, like he's been for the past couple of seasons, the Lakers will be gone in the first round. That's all I got to say. But guys, we have gotten to that time. Phil, my brother from another mother, love chopping it in with you, my guy. Any last words for the people before we get out of here? We'll do the rest of the first round predictions on Wednesday with Knicks recap, just so you guys know. Tomorrow on the Yankees Morning Brew, we got a special guest. We got our guy, Eric Kratz, former MLB catcher, will be there for an interview. It'll be myself and my brother Pete Simonetti having a great conversation with Eric Kratz tomorrow. So you're going to want to tune into the Yankees Morning Brew tomorrow morning. But Phil, any last words to the people before we get out of here, my brother?
No. So I have to say it because Hector dropped the ball, and I think it's the first episode all series that he did not say hit subscribe for the boys. So we need you guys to do that. Hit the like and the subscribe for the boys. And, you know, like we're looking forward to this week. We just want to remind you all, this is the last week of Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So make the alterations for your calendar. Next week, we will be moving to a Tuesday, Thursday at 11 a.m. And so we're looking forward to that. And do us a favor, share this. If you like the show, share it. We can't do this without you guys. We don't want to grow for the sake of growing numbers, but we want to grow because we truly value all of you guys who are in the chat, and we want to continue grow. Hey, yo, do not call me Big K. All right, Delano Steele. All right, I'm not going to take that. All right, I am not going that route. All right, I'm not. No, even though Big K is a monster, he's like 3 times my size. I'm not that. But anyway, so I'm looking forward to the playoffs. Looking forward to hanging out with Knicks recap on Wednesday. So I hope you all have a great Monday.
A little body shaming over there. You're doing a little body shaming. I feel you.
No, I'm just saying, like, I'm working on it. But anyway, so I appreciate you guys. Love being able to joke with you all. Hector, like always, just hanging out with family every time we're together. Jiggaman, always making sure behind the stage that things can actually operate the way that they do. We love you. We were sad you weren't on today's episode, bro. But Wednesday we will kill it with Knicks recap. What are the last closing words you got for us, Heck?
Love, peace, wrestling, and sports. That's all I gotta say. Deuces.